Hi guys, Lee here. In this video, I want to share with you a self-protection model we use, which is based on Jeff Cooper's color code. So the first code is code white. This means being unaware. So an example of this would be that you've got your headphones on, you've got your head down, and you don't know what's going on around you. You don't know if people are behind you, if they are. You're completely oblivious to your surroundings. But it also means being, ignorant to the signs of violence, what happens, how does violence begin, and the kinds of violence there is. And so the next stage is code yellow. Now to get from code white to code yellow, there needs to be what I call acceptance. Because no matter what we do or show you here, if you can't accept that violence against you is a real possibility, even if it might be a small, slim chance, then the rest of what we teach usually doesn't matter. Because until you can get over the hurdle that something might happen to you, until you can accept that violence may happen to you, the rest of what we really do really doesn't matter, okay? So you've got to get to a stage of accepting that violence might happen, and then from then on, we can start to look at being aware of your circumstances. So once we made the acceptance that this could happen to us, we can start to look at being aware. And being aware is a healthy awareness, so we're not talking about paranoia, but we have to be able to understand that we have awareness of our surroundings, okay, situational awareness. So we're not looking down, blasting out our sense of sound. We can understand what's going on around us, we're aware of what's going on around us, we do know if somebody's behind us or not, we're able to make those judgments. But it's also more than that, it's about having behavioral awareness as well, so we understand our own behavior, our own body language, what we do, as well as being able to look at the behavior of others and being aware of that. And this ties into what I call violence predictor, the kind of things which might happen which lead up to violence. For instance, if we look at a domestic violence situation, some of the things which we need to be aware of are things like if partners are being verbally abusive, if partners are being aggressive and throwing things around the house or smashing into walls, throwing glasses, that kind of thing, or if they're exhibiting controlling behaviors, so preventing who you go and see, preventing where you go, preventing what you wear when you go. But it's also about being aware of the psychological and physiological effects of violence too. And on top of that, a really important tool for awareness is your intuitional gut. So even though I've spoke about a few things which we need to learn and understand, one thing we cannot get rid of, or shouldn't get rid of, is our gut feeling or our intuition we have. And that's a tool which we can also hone and make razor sharp as well, and we'll do that in some other videos. So after code yellow, we have code orange. Now to get from yellow to orange, what we need there is a specific threat. Okay, if we're in code yellow, maybe we can now know who is walking around us, and maybe it's not just one person anymore, maybe we've crossed roads a few times, and now there's a group of people who are behind us. There's a group of people who are getting closer, their faces are covered. We're getting to more of a specific threat now, so we need to zone in and focus on that threat. And another example of zoning in on a threat might be, if we go back to the domestic violence situation, is that we might now see the signs and have a partner who is verbally abusive, who is throwing things around the room when they get angry, and they may be controlling what we do, who we go out and see, who our friends are, and things like that. So we might have a specific threat now, and once that threat occurs, we've got to zone in and focus on that, and then we've got to assess that threat. And by assessing, we have to look at what options we have. Are there any steps we can take now at this stage to avoid or diffuse the threat which we have? But whatever we do, we've got to make sure we're always monitoring it, and we have to have a trigger ready, and that can be a mental trigger or a physical trigger. And triggers, again, they're a whole topic we'll talk about on a different day. So to recap, code orange is we have to identify the threat, and once that's been identified, we've got to zone in on it and focus on it. We then got to assess our options, what we can do, and we've got to have a trigger ready. So A happens, then we're going to move to B, and B will be the next stage. And that stage is code red. And I've just explained, to get from orange to red, that trigger has got to be tripped. When we're in orange, we're already aware that if A happens, we're going to move on to B. Now, because that trigger's been tripped, A has happened, so now we're on to B. And once we're in this situation, right, we need to act immediately. It needs to be immediate action we take at this point, because things are getting very, very serious once we hit code red. So we've either got to engage or avoid. They're the two options, fight or flight as it's also called. We've got to make a decision, do we engage the threat right now or do we avoid the threat? And once that trigger's happened, that's your deciding point right there. Once your trigger's been tripped, we already know what we're doing in this circumstance. And so examples of these immediate actions we'd be taking could be like we're going to be running away. We might be leaving our partner if we're thinking about a domestic violence situation. That's the decision we've made and we're out there. Or we could be using physical force back, so a preemptive strike, using raw, ferocious aggression and power to keep ourselves safe. And that's the point of being acting now. Taking that immediate action is so that we can remain safe. And once we've taken that action to stay safe, we want to be going back to yellow. And again, we'll talk about this in a later video. If we've just been through a violent assault or attack and we've managed to get through that, we're likely to be very vulnerable at that stage. So the idea is you make that action, that immediate action, to get back to a state where we are aware of what's going on around us. We're back in code yellow. And I think it's important in summary just to explain that the fact that we can take that immediate action in red is because we're able to identify the threat, assess it, and decide what to do and have that trigger ready in code orange. And the only reason we were able to do that in code orange is because we were aware in the first place and we were in code yellow. So if we're never in code yellow, we can never get to orange and then get to red and take that immediate action as soon as we can. What happens instead is we're in code white, we're unaware of what's happening, and then we end up straight at red and we're trying to take immediate action, but we've got no time to think whatsoever. We've got no game plan, no strategy in place, and it's very difficult at that point to keep yourself safe. So we have code yellow to be aware, code orange once we've identified and assessed a specific threat and got our trigger ready, and then code red to take the action we need to immediately to keep ourselves safe. And that's our self-protection model, which is based on Jeff Cooper's color code.